Can I escape from 4 psychos who are hunting me down and ascend to become a literal god? If I sacrifice enough people and create a huge enough cult, it might be possible. And hear me out, I was planning to make 100 days, but it took a little bit more. So this is 110 days in Cult of Clan, Relics of the Old Faith. I was bound and forced to kneel before 4 weirdos. The messy bush, the sleepy toad, the roasted squid and the Australian cat. Apparently they are gods of some kind who have hunted down my whole family tree to prevent a prophecy from being fulfilled. And now they are here to put me to the blade and end my bloodline. Stupid folks. With my social skills I would have done that myself. The big scary guy approaches and swings his chunky axe. It was over. But wait, what is this? Am I in heaven? But why are there skulls on the ground? Who is this scary monster that is chained up? And most importantly, if I reincarnated, where is my harem? It turns out this guy is the one who waits. A god that was trapped in the realm of death by the 4 dumbasses from before. And now he wants vengeance. He wants me to create my own cult, hunt them down, and ultimately release him from his chains. He gave me his head, imbued with a mysterious power, and now I'm off to start my journey. I chose hard difficulty because I'm a pro Dark Souls player, but I'm not insane. I met this guy called Ratatouille, who instructed me to use these grounds to build my own cult and indoctrinate my first follower. I could change his form and color, but I decided to stay with the default. I could also see his unique traits and change his name. Strong constitution, heals 15% faster when sick and in bed rest. But I liked Murnayan. Murnayan is a good guy. I ordered him to chop some trees while I gathered some stone and wood to build a campfire. It looks like I will need to feed my cult, so I picked up some berries and made a basic meal. And while Murnayan was enjoying his dinner, I learned that I needed to go on holy crusades to get more followers and become stronger. There were 4 locked portals that led to 4 different domains, and we needed to go inside each of them and kill the god from that realm. After which, we would probably be able to unlock this big 5th gate, where the one who waits is likely in prison. Murnayan helped me open the door, and I adventured myself into the lands of dark wood. Here I got a crusader's blade, and found this fellow that made me choose between 2 cards that would make me stronger for the duration of the crusade. I got one that gave me 1 Hester heart, and it was finally time for the dungeon crawling. The combat was pretty fluid. I was able to attack with my sword and dodge the enemy's attacks by rolling, which gave me invincibility frames. I could also break stuff to get materials that could be used back at my cult. In each crusade I needed to choose the path that I would take, and there were some special rooms like this one, which gave me even more materials to collect. After a while I got an unexpected visit. It was Lashy, the messy bush. It looks like he's the guardian of Darkwood, but he fled before I could beat him up. Eventually I arrived at boss room, where Lashy made me fight his follower, Ambitious. He charged at me and threw a bunch of stuff in my direction, but I was able to defeat him. Oh, I did it! I did it! The boss then transformed into a little guy, who I abducted into my cult. I then had to choose between 3 rewards. I got berry seeds and a giant chest full of gold suddenly appeared. And when I went to the next room, one of the 4 locks on this door had unlocked. So it looks like we still have to kill 2 more bosses before we can fight Lashy, Messy Bush. And this was our first official crusade. Back at home I welcomed Ambitious into my family, and discovered that he was a natural skeptic. Natural skeptic. I asked him to mine some stone, and Big Ratto told me that I needed to build a shrine to collect devotion. I fortunately had all the materials that I needed, and Murnayan helped me constructing it. He's definitely a good guy. Blind Tui then gave me a free follower which I decided to worship at my shrine. I collected the devotion that he produced and got myself a divine inspiration. This can apparently be spent on the shrine research tree to unlock new buildings and stuff, so I used it to gain access to the temple. Here I performed my first sermon. This cultivates the faith of my followers and allows me to draw power from them, unlock new abilities, weapons and even curses. With that I was able to unlock our first perk, Hearts of the Faithful. This will permanently grant me half an heart on my next crusades. Oh, that's cool. And from now on, I will also be responsible to manage the faith level of the cult. This stat that appears at top left corner of screen, near the food meter. If it falls too low, our followers will start to descend, and tragedy will fall upon us. With that, the tutorial is over, and day 1 finally began. I immediately went into a new crusade, but this time I got Apostas Clever, which means that we might get a new weapon each time we go on a new crusade. The axe was a little slower than sword, but it hit way harder, so I kinda liked it. I smashed some monsters, got a tarot card, and found El Rato in the wild. He taught me how to use my crown ability, which I can cast by using my right click. In order to use it though, I need something called Fervor. Enemies will usually drop it when they die, but I can only hold so much at once, so I unfortunately cannot spam this special ability. A little bit ahead I found this poor guy, that was the only survivor from his village. I was pretty sad about that, so I rescued him. Little does he know the suffer he will go through. I also got his buff that increased my overall weapon damage by 1.2 times. Pretty cool. Lashy was once again up to his tricks, and ordered more of his followers to kill me. I just taught them a lesson, and went ahead on my journey, where I found Haru. He gave me 3 Commandment Stone fragments, which just so happens to be the exact number that I need to make 1 Commandment Stone. I will be able to use that back at my temple, but that's for later, because now it's boss time. Valefar will be our victim this time around. He has very big scary teeth and spawns a bunch of fire attacks that I need to dodge, while he endlessly jumps around. Things were going alright, but then this happens. No! So, was that it? Was everything over? Apparently not, because the one who waits still needs my service, and he will revive me as many times as needed. Pretty convenient. But even though I was sent back home, my followers were very angry with my defeat. Shouldn't you be happy because I'm by your side? Anyways, I collected some devotion and used the divine inspiration that I got to unlock the farm plot. I need to feed my followers every day if I don't want them to die, so it will be very useful to have a consistent food supply. I took the time to plant the seeds that I got and water them, and by the time that I finished, I already had enough devotion and materials to unlock and construct 2 sleeping beds. The nerds were starting to get hungry, so I made some meals before they started to eat grass or something. You never know. I went inside the temple, and since we can give a sermon a day, I did just that. I also took the opportunity to spend the Commandment Stone from before, and declare a new doctrine. Thanks to that, we unlocked the bonfire ritual, which will be hella useful to raise our cult faith in future. Sadly, we need bones of our opponents to make the ritual, so we will need to go on more crusades before we do that. I also discovered that there weren't enough beds for all our followers, and Boomer was sleeping on the floor. He clearly wasn't very happy about that, and our faith took quite a hit. As you know, the best way to deal with your problems is to avoid them, so I went into Darkwood. This time around we got a razor sharp dagger. Even though it dealt low damage, its attacks were lightning quick, and it would usually stagger the enemies to death. We also got an interesting tentacle ability that had considerable range, and also dealt a good amount of damage. With these in my arsenal, I slain everyone in my sight, collected a ton of bones, saved this donkey, come here, and made my way into a room where this furnace fellow let me choose between 3 rewards. I picked the Commandment Stone fragment because it looked like it was the only useful one. I kept on killing more weirdos, and eventually met this bird named... He offered me a choice between 3 upgrades, and I ended up grabbing the Flaming Shot level 2. With that I was ready to take on Valefar, and this time he didn't put much of a fight. Hello, little guy. I forced him into my van, selected the berry seeds as reward, and gained a ton of gold and a Commandment Stone fragment from the final chest. When I arrived at my cult, everything was in chaos. My faith was pretty much negative at this point, and Zoomer was absolutely pissed about hygiene conditions of this place. It turns out that while I was on my crusade, someone had the brilliant idea to poop on the floor. Doomer couldn't bear to see such a thing, and threw up as well. So from now on, I will also be responsible for cleaning up the poop, or my followers might get sick and die. I love being a cult leader. I cleaned it up and indoctrinated Figrina, Torna and Valefar. With these new enrollments, our organization has grown to a staggering 6 members. Which means that we need to make more beds as snap as possible. 4 more to be precise. With that done, I collected the devotion and unlocked the farming bundle, which allowed me to build a farmer station and a silo. Seeing our exponential growth, Merneon thought it was about time for us to name our cult. I settled with Ripped Cult, because creativity. Figrina also had something to tell me. She figured it would be a good idea to feed our followers grass meals, even though they wouldn't like it. Nothing hypocritical coming from a cow, huh? I decided to take her order, put on my chef hat, and make a grassy gruel. Figrina really didn't like the meal that much, but thanks to completing her request, our faith went up. I gave my day 4 sermon and used the bones from my last journey to enjoy a nice bonfire ritual. Yo, what is this? Yo, what is this? Farto told me that I could give my blessing to increase my followers' loyalty and level them up. This will reward us with a commandment stone fragment, and higher level followers generate more devotion, and are overall more useful for sacrifices, and other non-holy stuff that we will do further down the line. I ran around giving everyone my blessing, and even gave a necklace that I got earlier to Amdusius. Rato decided to invite me to his house, so upon arriving there I stole his devotion and destroyed him in a little game of knuckle bones. He gave me a new tarot card that can be found on crusades as a reward. When I came back, our devotion had accumulated a bit, so I used it to upgrade our cult level 2. This made my shrine more stylistic and gave me access to a bunch of new options. 2 of them being the lumberyard and the stone mine, that I unlocked a little later. But I couldn't build them yet. Each building requires gold, lumber and stone to be constructed, which makes it necessary for us to work on our economy. And that's when the lumberyard and stone mine will come in handy. But for now, I gave another sermon on day 6, and managed to upgrade the level of our weapons that we are able to get on our crusades. I also spent a commandment stone to declare a doctrine. There were a bunch of categories that I could choose from, and I chose possessions. Between the options that I had, I picked up the extortion action. This allowed me to extort money from my followers, which would prove very useful. I went around collecting fees from everyone, and used this new hard-earned money to build a farmer station, which lets me designate a follower to water nearby crops. Now I don't need to do that myself. It also looked like Merneon was troubled by the rumors of our poverty, so I made sure to make 10 grass meals to prove him wrong. He was astonished, to say the least. With everything settled, I went on a new crusade. Thanks to the upgrade from earlier, our weapons went all the way up to level 4, and this will surely translate into a boost in damage. I rampaged through the rooms, saved this little bunny from being sacrificed, for now, and was ambushed by 3 of the 4 schizos. They summoned some monsters and dipped, but I knew I would see one of them soon enough, so I didn't really mind. I made my way into the boss arena and fought Barbaros. Strangely enough, he wasn't using his harp to attack me. Instead, he kept on trying to make sheep skewer out of me, but I was patient, and eventually he went down. Alright, pretty easy. With that, we unlocked 3 out of 4 locks in the door, meaning that the next time we come here, it will be to kill Lashy, the messy bush himself. The one who hates called me into his realm, and granted me the power to read the mind of my followers, before sending me back home. Upon arriving, Amdusius wanted to build 3 decorations for our vase, but I was low on resources, alright? So I refused. He was quite angry about that. I repaired his bed. How on earth did you even break that? And welcomed Bunny Girl Senpai and Barbaros into our cult. I cleaned the floor and took the time to listen to Pumar's confession. I was very happy about that, so I extorted money from him 1 second later. I performed the mandatory sermon, unlocked main weapons to appear on our crusade, and declare a new doctrine, this time on the work and worship category. The one that I chose gave all my followers a trait that would increase their work speed by 15%. I hope I had that in real life. Also, I finally had enough materials to build a silo, and that's exactly what I did. Now I can put seeds in here, and my followers will pick them up and plant them for me. There was a ton of devotion on our shrine, so I sucked it all up and unlocked the missionary building. After that, I was just wandering around when I saw Myrnaeon vomiting his guts out and saying that he loved me immediately afterwards. I'm not sure what he meant by that, but I believe that he's still a good guy. I cleaned it all up and built a stone mine and a lumberyard. Now our economy can finally start to grow. And as usual, everyone was hungry. But this time we had a farm, so I could at least feed them some semi-decent meals. Since it was already day 9, I gave the daily sermon again and unlocked vampiric weapons. I also upgraded Myrnaeon's level, and upon reading his mind I discovered that he found our cult glorious. I love this guy. I gambled 10 coins against Ratatouille and went on what could possibly be our final journey through Darkwood. And I met Rakshasa. He gave me some fish, but being the evil lamb that I am, it wasn't nearly enough for me. So I started breaking his customers' tables and faces. I actually felt quite bad. But if there is something that I learned in this game, is that I need to break everything. Still trying to satiate my greed, I accidentally hit his wife, and Rakshasa warned me to stop. He was understanding at first, but I kept on going out of curiosity, and he went completely nuts. He pulled out his fork and frenetically tried to stab me. Even more surprising was that he was actually strong. He had a bigger health pool than a boss, his movements were fast, and his attacks lightning quick. I knew that I needed to give it my all if I wanted to defeat him. I almost died quite a few times, and it sure took its sweet time, but eventually I came on top. My face was swollen and my honor was stolen, but at least I got this cool decoration as a reward. Anyways, I whacked some monsters, got this shiny tarot card, and ultimately found this fellow, Fishman the Fisherman. He invited me to Pilgrim's Passage, a place that I will check out later. I continued fighting my way through, and before you know it, I got to the boss room where Lashy was awaiting me. He sacrificed all these little weirdos and became a giant speaky worm. He summoned a bunch of maggots, shot goo at me and even tried to make a pancake out of me, but he was no match against my gamer abilities, and was promptly slain. He dropped the Heart of Heretic as a reward, and we got quite back from this crusade. When I arrived home, everyone was pleased with my victory and celebrating, but I didn't have time to laze around. I repaired his bed and built his shelter upgrades, which will hopefully collapse less often. I proclaimed a new doctrine and got this cool trait that makes everyone's faith go up when building better sleeping quarters. Perfect. I also used the heart from earlier to unlock a new crown skill. There were several options that we could choose from, and they were all really good. I ended up settling with Omnipresence, which gave me the possibility to instantly return to my base whenever I wanted to escape a crusade. I recruited this dear fellow to our cult, and Myrnaeon was vigorously asking for my attention. I listened to what he had to say, and he wanted me to satisfy his dark desire of eating a meal made out of poop. What is wrong with you? I complied, and Myrnaeon's faith in me was justified. I gathered berries from our farm, cleaned up all the poop from the floor, and built some more farm plots. Not sure why, but everyone was sleep deprived. They didn't complain though, so I didn't mind. I performed another sermon, unlocked yet another perk, and visited Pilgrim's Passage, where I found these weird fellas worshipping a fireplace. I fueled it with lumber, and Firekeeper was so ecstatic, he was about to gouge his eyes out. Fortunately, he didn't ask me to touch the darkness within him. I also talked to Fishman the Fisherman. He unironically gave me a quest to catch some fishes, but it was taking too long and it was kinda boring to be honest, so I just gave up. I then gave my day 13 presentation. Guys, you shall not poop the floor. And unlocked necromantic weapons. I also unlocked and performed the fast ritual. This will make our followers not eat or be hungry for 3 days straight, and we can save up on precious food. The timing could also not be more perfect, because the good guy Myrnaeon told me that there were some hungry guys outside our door. I let them in and headed off for another crusade. This was when I found out that one of the 4 chains that imprisons the one who waits finally broke. Can I still go to Darkwood?
Yes, sir.
Oh, easy. Hello, the one who waits. You know what? I wasn't keen on the idea of sacrificing followers. But in the meantime, another day had passed. So I changed my mind and returned to the temple, where I unlocked the sacrifice ritual. This one allows me to sacrifice a follower of choice and harvest their blood to unlock new abilities and weapons. This is exactly what I signed up for. I wondered who would be our first candidate to ascend beyond the physical realm, and I picked up good old Boomer. He was one that made me clean up his vomit, so this shall be a fit punishment for him. This was kinda violent, wasn't it? Thanks to his dying efforts, I unlocked the Weapon Mastery perk, and now I can finally use charge attacks on my crusades. I then constructed the Missionary and the Demonic Summoning Circle that I had unlocked a bit earlier. With the former I can send one of my followers into a mission, and he will return with a chosen resource, if he survives that is. And with the latter I can transform one of my subjects into a fierce demon that will help me in battle. I chose Amdush as the third, and now he will collect the fervor for me next time we go on a crusade. I also built a tabernacle that is basically a secondary shrine, where followers will pray throughout the day. And together with my troop I fired a beam of light into the sky, and finally opened the door to a new era. This will be where we will be crusading from now on. I went in and was surprised by a new weapon, a pair of gauntlets. I tried them out and they were pretty stylish. The normal attack had a good hitbox, and the charge one was a cool spinning move. I continued smashing my way through the rooms and found this camarade being held hostage by the little guys. He was pretty scared even after I had saved him, so I made sure to let him know that he was safe.
I will fucking eat you.
As I went on, I was greeted by the Lord of these lands, Hecate, the Sleepy Toad. I thought he was going to threaten me with some empty words and leave, but this time it was different. He made one of my followers nearly starve to death, and that is something I will not permit. After all, I am the only one that can torment him, and for that, he shall be beheaded. I progressed to the final room and confronted Gusion. He was not as scary as the other guys, but he was strong. He spawned these eggs that I needed to destroy before they hatch, and he kept jumping around and throwing those fireballs at me. It was not a particularly hard fight, but in the end, he got the upper hand. Oh dang. I got back and upgraded the Might of the Devout perk to level 2. With this, our damage output will surely undergo a significant increase. I also unlocked this action that lets me intimidate my followers to slightly increase their loyalty and working speed for 2 days straight. Pretty good if you ask me. And while I was doing some chores, I noticed that Money Girl Senpai was pretty sick, instead of being mid like everyone else was saying. So I stole money from her and sent her to rest. She wasn't the only one that went to rest too, because seconds later this dude just straight up died. So that's why. I approached the body and there were 2 interesting options: prepare for burial and harvest meat. I would definitely need a body pit to bury the body, so I just picked the easy way out. Guess we don't need to worry about dinner anymore. I was ready to go on a crusade when I met this fellow just outside the door. He was trying to sell me Mr. Fox for 50 bucks, which is indeed a compelling offer, but we don't have the funds right now. So I will come back later and I hope that he's still alive by then. For now, however, I entered Anura to get my revenge on Froggy from earlier. I cleavered my way through these mushroom-filled lands and stumbled across Shemak. He was clearly overdosing on dubious substances, but he gave me a relic, so that's none of my business. If you are wondering, relics can be used to perform special actions and powerful attacks, but they have a huge cooldown, and some of them even break after use. The one that he gave me summons a mighty lightning that strikes every enemy in the room, so it is pretty cool. Also, from what I'm able to deduce looking at these chains, and at these poor things that are apparently his followers, Shemak must be a fallen god that went completely nuts, and was imprisoned by those of his own kind. So he certainly has a badass backstory. I wonder if the game will give us more information about that. Anyways, I found this room filled with chests, and arrived at Guja. This time, however, I was equipped with my trustworthy axe. and a strange artifact that made me bigger, so he didn't stand a chance. After beating his ass, the one who waits called me once again to tell me that he gave me an offering chest, a place where I can sell stuff with diminishing returns, but the price was at daily. It was day 18 when I returned home, and I built this offering statue where my followers can leave offerings for me. It's always good to find new ways to extort those noobs. I sold a bunch of stuff at offering chests, and transformed Murnayan into a demon. And if you are wondering, the other guy reversed back to his normal self after our crusade ended. And also, different followers transform into distinct demons, each with their unique skills, and higher loyalty, the more powerful they are. I then went into my temple and unlocked this trait. It might not look like it, but it's actually pretty overpowered. You see, until now I couldn't feed them grass because their faith would go down. But that's not a problem anymore, and since grass is so commonly found on crusades, hunger will never be an issue until the end of this run. At least that's what I thought. More on that later. I converted this cabbage into our cult and made 3 more stone mines. I'm still not sure why I made that many, but anyways. I also built another tabernacle and a refinery, which is capable of consecrating our resources into their higher level versions. I found these 4 mates pooping together, cleaned it up, and unlocked the Shrine Flame bundle. Now we can light fire off our shrine with grass and lumber to harvest more devotion. It also makes those who are worshipping have this sick flame in their eyes. I then went into Anura again, and stumbled across this mushroom. He seemed like a cool dude, and invited me to Spore Grotto, a place that we will need to check out later for sure. I continued gauntling my way through the dungeon, and was approached by the 3 remaining weirdos. And Shamro in particular said something that I found really interesting. 5 becomes 4, becomes 3, becomes 2, becomes 1, becomes nothing. He must have been talking about prophecy, and as far as I can tell, everyone will die if it comes true. They threatened me to bow or suffer consequences, and I had a realization. Blood shall not be shed needlessly. We need to end this stupid war. So I obviously complied, but my efforts to maintain peace went unrewarded, as I was mercilessly murdered seconds later. Guess I need to kill them after all. I lost 40% of the items that I got on that crusade, and returned home to the most heartbreaking sight possible. Murnayan had turned his back on us and became a hater. He saw through our lies and was decided to tell the others the fraud that I am. This was probably a consequence of our low faith, and we need to do something about it ASAP. We danced around bonfire and heard godly ship commandments, raising our faith to healthy levels again. But despite all this, Murnayan was still dissenting. I recurred to our last hope, re-education. I told him that he was still in time to change his way and become a better person, but it didn't get through him. With even re-education proven to be a failure, I had no other option than unlocking the Shining Ritual and sending him to a better place. Goodbye, Murnayan. See, he's happy. Oh. Rest in peace, Murnayan. You were a good guy. It's not all bad news though. Figrina came back from her mission and gave me 52 coins, and Bretra wanted to go into one, so I sent her. I then visited Spore Grotto, where I found this mushroom that was selling various tarot cards, and being the gentleman that I am, I decided to support his business. I also met Zozo. He was quite exquisite fellow, and told me that he would do anything in exchange, if I brought some mushrooms to him. He certainly is a gacha addict. We will come back to him later, but now it was about time to declare a new doctrine. With this one, we can perform a ritual where everyone will donate money to me. I'm pretty sure it is called Patreon. I tried it out and oh boy, it was quite a lucrative experience. Day 22 arrived and Figurine informed me that she was old. I was pretty sad to hear that, partly because she only had a few days left, but mainly because it meant that she couldn't work anymore. I wonder if the sacrifice ritual is out of cooldown. I made some chores and went to Anura, where I found this dubious statue. I sacrificed a red heart and it gave me a damage increase until the end of the crusade, which was totally worth it. I also went into this mysterious room, where I surprisingly had to fight Gujin again. I surely wasn't prepared for that and ended up being stomped to death. I want to blame my bad luck, because boss was literally at one hit, but I know I'm just bad. I built another lumberyard, collected the berries, and constructed a propaganda speaker. I had unlocked it at some point, and I can fuel it with 1 gold bar to make my followers in range work 20% faster. I didn't have gold bars though, so I went to the refinery to make some. Something that I had, however, was a lot of money and wood, so I went completely nuts and built a bunch of lumberyards. And now that I'm thinking about it, it is kinda dumb that you need wood to make the thing that produces more wood. But anyways, I completed a few chores and bought a doggy from Hello before tackling a Neuro once again. There I rescued this nerd, got his completely overpowered ability, and before long we were exchanging blows with Delegos. I'm gonna be honest with you, it went completely horrible. I messed up a handful of times, and the boss just ran away mid-fight. But the Divine Guardian ended up carrying my ass the entire time, and I got the better of him. I gained 15 pumpkins as a reward, and there is just one more boss we need to kill, before we can brawl against Hackett, the Sleepy Toad. I accepted these 3 dudes into our cult, and one of them gave me a mission to recruit 2 more. I did just that and bumped our follower count all the way up to 15. I then learned that it was Figurina's last wish to have a luxurious outhouse, where she could poop in peace. I couldn't let all her efforts go unrecognized, and made it my goal to see that come true. The time was clocking though, and for obvious reasons. I consecrated lumber into wooden planks, sent Valefar into a mission, and constructed the outhouse. I was really happy about that, partly because we granted the old lady's last wish, but mainly because I won't need to clean poop from the floor anymore, and that alone is a huge time saver. But luck wasn't on our side, and happiness was unfortunately short-lived. Half Figurina died before she could reach the outhouse. This was a traumatic experience for me. How am I supposed to create the hugest cult in history and become a god if I can't even let my followers poop in peace? Since we still haven't unlocked Body Pit, I just mummified her body and threw her at a corner. I also built a prison for future dissenting followers and discovered that I could pet the doggy. No, are you for real? Oh, so cute. And thanks to the countless stone mines and lumberyards, we were quite rich, so I built a bunch of random stuff. Also, a little while back, Torna asked me to save his brother from Darkwood, so I did just that. What I wasn't expecting though was to confront a new boss in this area, Witness Agaris. I was only at 1 heart, but the boss in itself wasn't that hard, and I just spammed this cool tentacle ability that I got. I did get hit one time and nearly died, but ultimately he was put to rest. You know why? Because I'm good at this game. And I got the Eye of the Witness as a reward. I could continue my crusade, but I just went home. Volfar had returned from his journey as well, and a bunch of our stone mines had broken down. But I didn't bother to reconstruct them, as we already had a considerable amount of resources. I then learned and performed the ritual of the Ocean's Bounty, which not only improved our likelihood of catching special fish, but also doubled the number of fish caught. I reorganized our base, because it was a real mess, and headed off to Pilgrim's Passage. I went into the breach and peered into the darkness, and a strange guy appeared. He asked me for a fish and gave me a mysterious redstone fragment as a reward. I don't know what that is for, but alright. I then spent quite a good amount of time fishing and gave some of those fishes to Fishman, the fisherman. He rewarded me with more of those redstone fragments, and I eventually completed one. It apparently can be used to craft new fleeces, and there were quite a few to choose from. Furthermore, they weren't just cosmetic, they had actual buffs and debuffs attached to them. And I ended up choosing the white one, the Fleece of the Fates. It drawed 4 tarot cards at start of a run, but none can be drawn after that. I also sacrificed this guy and unlocked a new ritual. And oh boy, this one sure is a cruel one. After performing it, it makes our followers work through 3 days and nights, without ever getting tired. And to prove that I'm definitely not a bad person, I also unlocked the Body Pit and buried Figurina's body. Now, she can finally rest in peace. I made some meals, preached another sermon, and headed off to Spore Grotto. Because now we finally had the mushrooms needed to give to Zozo. I gave him a ton of them, and he rewarded me with a new ritual, and more of that redstone that can be used to craft new fleeces. And it was apparently time for Barbatos to leave this world. I will surely not miss him. I took care of his body and upgraded our weapons level once again. And with that done, I noticed that the follower of mine had asked asked me to go into Dark Wood to collect some flowers. And I did go there once, but I didn't get the followers that I needed, and I was too lazy to go again. So I just returned to my temple and unlocked a new ritual. This time, the wedding ritual. As strange as it seems, we still need bones to make the wedding ritual, and I didn't have nearly enough, so I couldn't make it yet. But we did have more urgent problems than that. When I came back, for some reason our faith was really low, and Alaron has started to descend. In order to deal with this, first I educated him, and then I locked him in jail. Hope he learns how to behave from now on. I made bonfire ritual to increase our faith, and went back to Anura. I borrowed a relic from Shemak, and slashed my way through the enemies until the moment that I found the Hecate. The Sleepy Toad was feeling kinda funny that day, and he cast a famine upon several members of my cult. How underhanded, I must say. I continued my journey nonetheless, and finally arrived to Zapar. He was an ugly-ass toad that spawned more ugly-ass toads. His kit was really annoying, but I was armed with overpowered ability that left me invincible, so it was a walk in the park. 3 out of 4 locks unlocked, meaning that the next time that we come to Anura, it will be to kill the Sleepy Toad, and I can't wait for that. I upgraded my cult to level 3, unlocking even more stuff, and also found Valefar's body on the floor. Guess he couldn't handle the famine. I wouldn't as well. I buried his body and recruited Zapar into our cult. And with that done, I really needed to solve the hunger issue as snap as possible. So I used my godly tier trait and gave grass to everyone. And with day 44 in, I gave another sermon and unlocked one of the most interesting rituals, the Ritual of Resurrection. That's right, this ritual allows me to bring a dead follower back to life. I really wanted to try it out, but it was expensive as hell. So for now I made the wedding ritual. I could choose anyone to become my wife, but I settled with Witness Agarius. I mean, just look at those cute horns. Also, fun fact, you can marry as many followers as you want. I didn't want to do that, but one thing that I wanted was to try out the resurrection ritual, so I headed off to Anura to get more bones, and also to kill Hecate. I got this cool ice ability and encountered with Haru, who obviously gave me my daily dose of backstory. It seems like every god of the old faith corresponds to a tragedy, and one who hates corresponds to death. The problem is that while the others like chaos and war are temporary, death is permanent. And that's one of the reasons they had to imprison him, because he was inevitable. Anyways, I saved this fellow, got rewarded with this relic in one of the rooms, and finally got my showdown against Hecate, the Sleepy Toad. He sacrificed a ton of his followers and became a giant monster. He had a ton of life, and even though I had this cool ability that could stop time, I wasn't a match for him. No surprise, when I came back everyone was sad about my defeat, and my faith was really low. Alaron had finally come back to his senses, so I released him from his jail. I also found not 1, but 2 dead bodies on the floor. This time it was Torna and Amdusha's time. I will miss you guys. I built more body pits because I really wasn't expecting that many people to die, and obviously buried bodies. My wife then came to me to tell me that there were some sick creatures that wanted to join our cult. I indoctrinated them into my cult and immediately healed them in the medical bay that I had built at some point. After which I noticed that I had run out of money, so I went into my temple and made one of my favorite rituals, the Patreon ritual. As usual, we got a good amount of money for that. I placed some more bets and headed off to Lonely Shack. Flinky had challenged me, so I beat him in a game of knuckle bones. I then bought this pretty cheap capybara and went into Anura to kill Hecate. On my way I saved Sparkles. He had a pretty inflated ego, but I didn't mind. After all, he would be my slave for the rest of his life. I then arrived at the boss arena and discovered that I had a pretty broken crown ability this time around. Yo, this ability is so powerful, let's look at this damage. What? And got another Heart of a Heretic as a reward. I also made it hitless, so I got 40% bonus on the items that I got. And one who hates called me to tell me that he was pretty pleased with Spectacle. Furthermore, when I arrived home, everyone was there to show me their support. I was really happy, and also noticed that our cult had grown quite a bit. I built another farm station and crop plots, buried yet another body, and unlocked a new crown skill. This time I chose Resurrection, And as name implies, when killed on a crusade for the first time, I can sacrifice a follower to be resurrected, which is pretty overpowered. I also upgraded our farmer stations to level 2. Now my followers can harvest the crops and also deposit them in a chest for me to collect. I love when other people do the hard work for me. I then sold some stuff on the offering chest for a quick coin, and decided to try out the ritual that Sozu had given me, the brainwashing ritual. This will make my followers brainwashed for 2 days, and my faith will be locked during that duration. I didn't really need it because my faith was alright, but I wanted to try it out. And apparently there are some side effects to consuming dubious substances, because some of my followers became sick. But anyways, I finally had enough bones to perform the resurrecting ritual, and I obviously brought our old friend Valefar to life, just because he was level 6. I sent our sick followers to rest, and discovered that yet another chain had broken. So now 2 more to go before we can finally free the one who waits. I then asked my followers' help to open the 2 remaining doors, and found my dear friend Rakshasa. He was apparently still scared, but he was willing to sell me some seeds, which came quite in handy. It was then about time to go on a new holy crusade, and I went for the first time to Anchor Deep. I was quite lucky because I got 2 shining cards, and I also got a new weapon, the hammer. Now, the hammer was very slow, but it dealt a massive amount of damage. Nonetheless, I didn't like it. I just don't think it was a good match for the fast-paced combat of this game. It was really hard to land a blow without taking one, so it wasn't worth it. And the next guy on our hit list also appeared, Calamar, the roasted squid. He made a follower of mine sick and then lived. Anyways, this area was also really beautiful, and our friend was also here. I obviously bought a new follower from him, and eventually arrived at the boss. He was a pretty spiky dude, and he didn't want to talk to me at all. He sent a lot of spiky stuff in my way, and I also couldn't beat him first time. No. Thanks to our new skill, it isn't over yet, because we can still resurrect. Apparently, the higher the level of the follower, the more hearts that it will give me, and if he is old, he will give less. I sacrificed Gujan, and I was barely able to beat him. It was a close call, but in the end I came on top. I then recruited new folks into our cult, bringing our follower count to 19. I then bought some seeds, made some chores, and went into another crusade. I found another dude that wanted to face me in Knuckle Bones, so that will be for later. For now, however, I rescued this hippo and used Omnipresence to return back home. When I returned, this lady had died of old age, so I took care of her body. And to avoid always having dead people on the floor, I unlocked and built a morgue. Now my followers can also take care of the bodies. After that, I organized a cemetery area, and Valefar asked me to marry her, but I already had a wife, so I politely declined. I then gave Day 34 sermon and unlocked the Text Enforcer ritual. This one allows me to appoint a follower as my Text Enforcer, and that person will be tasked with collecting money from other cult members. Without delay I made the ritual, and appointed Salius as my Text Enforcer. I hope he does a good job. I then beat the new guy at Knuckle Bones, and he gave me a tarot card as a reward. With that out of the way, I bought my daily meal, and headed off to Anchor Deep. Calamar was once again up to his tricks, and he made a ton of my followers sick. This time though, I didn't mind, and I continued slashing forwards. I saved another one of these guys. How the hell are they always in this type of situations? And I got this relic from Shamak. This one lets me freeze all active enemies, so it must be pretty powerful. I then arrived at my next victim, Haraban. There was only one slight problem though. I only had 2 hearts, and he kept on spawning these annoying guys that are really hard to dodge. So I died once again. I did sacrifice one of my followers, but even that wasn't enough. No. And when I arrived back home, our faith was completely rock bottom. We need to do something about this. I gave my daily sermon, did my usual chores, and to my surprise, I found out that Salius was scenting. What a scam. I imprisoned him and reeducated him, after which I unlocked and constructed a fertilizer silo. If you are wondering, I can put poop in here, and my followers will use it as a fertilizer for the crops. It's also worth mentioning that another guy died. But anyways, I experimented the newly unlocked ritual that will make followers work through 3 days and nights without getting tired. Yep, another way to traumatize my followers. I love it. It was already day 48. So I built 2 more farming stations and upgraded our cult to max level. I then gave a sermon to our biggest crowd yet, a staggering 22 people. They still weren't that happy though, so I gave everyone mushrooms. And it goes without saying that a bunch of people became sick. I'm starting to think that it wasn't that good of an idea. I also welcomed Finu that had just returned from his mission, and this happened. He was murdered. You know what? Desperate times call for desperate measures. Since everyone was starving, I made a ton of meals and headed off to Anchor Deep. Leader of my cult is a coward. How can I respect someone who is too afraid to fight? No, are you kidding me? Really though? It will be your dinner for tonight. I then went into a new Holy Crusade, where I saved this trumpet head and reunited with my old friend Calamar. And you won't believe this, he actually begged me for mercy. You fool! Did you really think that after all you did I would show mercy? Anyways, I also met Plimbo, and he invited me to his sanctuary. You already know how this goes, we will check that out later. But for now, I continue slashing forward and found this statue. I offered some gold and received some food in exchange, which wasn't half that bad. Furthermore, after that I stole gold around the statue, so I basically got my money back, and then arrived at boss arena, where I fought against Beelzebub. To be honest, the fight was pretty easy. I was dealing a good amount of damage, and the boss in itself was also easy, so there really isn't anything to say here. When I arrived home, I unlocked Might of the Devout 5, increasing once again the starting level of our weapons, and also revived our old friend Amducius, which made our faith go rock bottom once again. But that doesn't matter. I went to Sanctuary, and surprise surprise, I got another redstone fragment. I also found one that lurks into the darkness. I gave him a follower of mine, and he gave me another fragment in exchange. With that I completed a whole stone, and got the golden fleece. This one increases our damage dealt each time we kill someone, but it resets if we get hit, and we also take double the damage. With this new piece of equipment, we headed off to what would hopefully be our last crusade to Anchor Deep. On my way I found this weird room full of hearts, but I already had full health, so it didn't change anything. I continued going on and eventually arrived at Calamar. He transformed into this spectacular form. Yo. But when we arrived at him, we already had our fleece stacked to the brim, and we were dealing 500% more damage. To top it all off, we also had a broken crown ability that made us invincible. So you can bet that we beat his ass easily. With another Heart of Heretic in the bag, I returned to home, and I unlocked Might of Devout 6, meaning that our starting weapons are now max level. I also could get a new crown skill, and I chose Darkness Within. This one allows us to receive a disease heart at the beginning of each run, which is basically a normal heart that damages everyone in the room if I get hit. And our cult was pretty much self-sustaining at this point in time, so from now on I will be focusing more on crusades. Another chain had broken down, and Silk Cradle will be our new adventuring area from now on. And the first guy that we need to beat here is Folklore, but when I faced him for the first time I only had one heart, so I unfortunately died. No. Which wasn't a problem at all, just a waste of time. I then upgraded our summoning circle to level 2, meaning that we now can spawn 2 demons at the same time. I did just that and obviously went back to Silk Cradle, and I died again. Okay, not a problem, the third time is a charm. See, I told you. On one of my subsequent crusades I found this direction plate that directed me to Midas Cave. I paid it a visit and unsurprisingly it was full of gold. It was pretty shiny and overall pretty beautiful. There I could buy devotion with gold, but the price increased every time I bought it, and it resetted daily. But since we already had quite a lot of devotion, it wasn't really useful at that point. I could also sacrifice a follower of mine, and I couldn't resist temptation. He became a gold statue, and I got a red fragment as a reward. It also wasn't that useful, but I was expecting something to happen if I sacrificed max number of followers, so I kept on going. I sacrificed 4, but nothing happened. They just became gold statues and I got more red fragments. I was a little bit disappointed, not gonna lie. There was also a well where I could donate money, but I only had 349 coins and I needed 350, so I couldn't do it. But anyways, I went back into more crusades and killed Bethar. Nope. And at that moment something interesting happened. This mysterious being appeared, told me that we would meet again, and then left. I was confused, but I returned to my cult. I upgraded our missionary building, and now our followers can grab different materials that they wouldn't be able to otherwise, including more followers, which is always good. I went back to Silk Cradle and defeated Haurus, the giant blue scorpion. We had an overpowered crown skill that could freeze him, so it was a piece of cake. I went once again into a new crusade, but Shamra knew that this time it was his time to be put to the blade. So he had some tricks up on his sleeve. He made 2 of my followers fight against me, and I unfortunately had to kill them. And one of them even was Murnayan, the good guy from the good old days that I had revived just a little bit earlier. Sorry guys, please rest in peace. The burden was heavy, but I needed to keep on marching forwards, and I arrived at Shamra. So, what will you become? He had a pretty crazy moveset, but I managed to defeat him nonetheless. You are going down, let's go! With that, I got a Heart of Heretic, and I broke the last chain that was imprisoning the one who waits. It was a long journey, but it was finally time. This big door in the middle had finally opened, and when I entered it, I found a location where I could perform a ritual. I needed 20 followers to do so, but our cult had been growing by day, and we already had 22. I summoned my followers, and with their help I managed to ascend to the realm of death, where the one who waits is, well, waiting. I picked the weapon and ability of choice, and walked to the big scary cat. I had 2 options: kneel to be sacrificed, accept, or refuse. I was quite honestly enjoying my stay, so I refused.
That crown is mine, by divine right. You think to stand in the very face of death.
The one who waits got pretty pissed, and threw his servant at me. I defeated him pretty easily. Sit down, T-Series. So he threw his second servant at me. Once again I managed to defeat him fairly easily. No? I said I got this. One more. So this time the one who waits faced me himself, and I was defeated. I mean, come on. 3 boss fights in a row? That's easy, my friend. That's what I thought at that moment. So I tried once again. I breezed through the 2 first phases, and was once again facing the one who waits. But this time, it went differently. One more. Down. Surprisingly, there was a 4th phase, and I wasn't expecting it at all. It's true, I had fallen, but I was certainly willing to keep on going. In fact, I was more willing than I should. I was feeling so confident in myself that I had the brilliantly stupid idea to change the game difficulty to the hardest. In case you haven't noticed, I have my pride as a Dark Souls veteran, and once I take a challenge, I can never go back. Even though I was pretty confident, truth is that the boss was actually more difficult than I expected, and changing the difficulty didn't help at all. It took me quite a little bit of tries, and at one point I was almost having a mental breakdown, but eventually I managed to defeat him. Cool, let's go. What now? Come on, what now? The one who waits transformed into a little guy, and I had 2 options: spare or murder. I decided to go with ladder. I got a trophy as a reward, and I officially became the one and only God of Death. and the credits start rolling. So that was it? Well, not actually. I built my magnificent statue, and I unlocked a bunch of new fleeces, but I still can't get them. And when I was going to buy some seeds, this happened. The mysterious being from before told me that the bishops that I killed were imprisoned between life and death, and that I, as newly appointed God of Death, should crusade once more and put them to rest. The doors became once again locked, and I was to explore all the domains once again. I then went into Darkwood, Enra, Anchor Deep, and Silk Cradle to complete my mission. The biomes were a bit different from how they were originally, and the bosses also had slight variations to the design and also the attack patterns. But apart from that, nothing much changed. Each time I defeated a boss, I would receive a god tier, and I could give them to the mysterious being to play what could only be described as a gacha. There were some different rewards that I could get, like a necklace to give to my followers, a new decoration, or something better, like a special redstone that I could use to get newly unlocked fleeces, or a special commandment stone that I could use to learn the doctrines that I didn't in the past. I continued on and on killing more bosses, and eventually arrived to the final one, Shamra, the Lord of Silk Cradle. Unfortunately, now he is no more than a shell from his past self, and I defeated him with quite easy. See? With the final boss killed once again, it's about time to see the mysterious being one final time. He gave me the one who waits for me to play with, and I will surely do that in a moment. He also gave me the God of Death fleece, which is only fit for myself. The credits started rolling once again, but it was too early for me to leave. There were still some things that I wanted to do. I welcomed a ton of fellas into my cult, until I finally got to the one who waits. I went to church and married him. What a beautiful moment. We gave a kiss, and I asked him to make me a nice meal. With that, his eternal punishment was given, and I finally completed my 110 days in Cult of the Lamb.